Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Kevin.
You want to explain this to me? What is happening here? I'm
This
frightened.
is what Luke wore when passing out candy, and so I just thought before Halloween is totally bygones, put this mask on, pretending
I thought
the
maybe
sadness
you
of
were.
being a Bengals fan.
I thought maybe you were hiding from Rennie.
No, I love Rennie.
And there's a lot of controversy about the power rankings. I thought this was like I thought they were kind of settling out, like that
I
they
know, and
were.
we were
really.
we were like connected.
Yeah,
you know.
we're connected. They're the closest to the standings that they've ever been. You know what I mean? Like things are kind of starting to filter its way into how the rankings are. So we can get into all that in just a second. But glad to be here. It's always fun to do the podcast when you're winning. So
Yeah.
it's a totally different experience for me. Not really sure how to act. I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm winning.
Yeah.
I'll do what I'll do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the same thing that I was doing last year when I was losing. So.
Okay, that'll work. Yeah, I think we both probably thought it'd be closer than it was in both our matches, and then didn't quite materialize.
Yeah. So, well, I'll let you. We haven't talked about this. We've talked about some other segments of the podcast. We haven't talked about this. I have a feeling I know who the team of the week is, but I'll let you give it out. Dave, who is the Miller Time team of the week?
If you would, I was set in stone that it was going to be Ed.
Yeah.
Because all he needed was a couple field goals or a few extra points, and he would have passed up for high points. He already had the win.
Yeah.
It was just a formality, I thought. And then Money Mac and the Bengals can't get him in. He misses a field goal, misses an extra point.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have done it. I think he needed one more. He fell short. So by default, really, not really by default. This guy earned it. We had Flexman for dead. He was the lowest point scorer in the whole, the whole league. We just kept pushing him down in the power rankings farther and farther. No respect. And what's he do? He comes out this week and he holds off Ed for high points. He holds off Brian at the end, for the win. And he is Travis. You're the Miller Time team of the week. Good job, Ed.
and really honorable mention to Ed, because like both of these teams really, we've kind of counted out. Both of these teams have been plummeting in both the rankings and the power rankings. Not sure that anybody had, if we're talking about, these teams aren't playoff teams, it's like both these guys, and both of them showed that any week, anything can happen. And so, and not that
go and just wreck things, because we were getting pretty close.
And not that they just
four teams, pretty close to having four teams where they weren't gonna, probably no chance of making the playoffs, which means the rest of us 8 are like, but now it's all mucked up.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, and we'll get to some of that in a little bit as far as just the overall standings and everything. But 2 wins by 2 teams that needed it the most, but Travis comes out on top for the Miller Time team of the week. So congratulations, Travis. So now the other award that we give out, my honorary award, the Hillbilly of the week is this is easy for me.
Really? Because nobody had a bad score, really.
Nobody had a bad score, but who could have won their matchup had they only played their team name?
Oh yeah, that's true.
who midweek gets all frantic about the podcast and some different things that people were calling out, and just says, you know what, I'm going to go away from my franchise quarterback and I'm going to start Daniel Jones. But
yeah,
no, I love Rennie, but man, that's
well, it helped out somebody.
Yeah, it helped me out tremendously. So I don't have any problem with it. But
You get see it's things like that. You try to get cute, and you're like, Rodgers been struggling a little bit. I'm gonna make this little savvy move, stick in Daniel Jones. Nobody would have thought of that.
Right.
Come out on top, and when it doesn't work, it makes you look like a hillbilly.
Yeah. Well, overthinking things, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and had it worked and it got him like high points or something like that, it'd been a genius move. But on the other side of that, it's Daniel Jones, and I mean, there's a reason he's sitting out there for somebody to pick up on Friday, right?
Yeah. I mean, you would say, well, he doesn't have anybody to throw to, but then neither does Rodgers. But
yeah,
if you have two quarterbacks and neither one of them have anybody to throw to, who do you go with?
Yeah,
the guy with
absolutely.
the track record or Daniel Jones?
Yeah. So, well, we've talked about a couple of these matchups. We'll just we'll run through them real quick. The week 8 kind of what happened. We had a huge win by Lee over Junior off all weekend, but they were not high scoring affairs.
No.
What was your what any big takeaway? Obviously, it has huge implications. I think I had mentioned that if Junior wins that, he just that level of separation that he would have had between himself and everybody else, you just feel like that he's going to he's trending towards league champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still a lot to play, but like with the point total plus the wins, it's like, man, that would have helped him out considerably, but but he doesn't. I mean,
Lee got some. I mean, he got some help. He had horrible quarterback play again, but I think everybody thought that Mixon would get 9 points. With screen passes and some running and maybe at least one touchdown. But and I mean, really, Junior. One of the things that hurt him was AJ Brown got all of the touchdown passes for Philly instead of Devontae Smith only had 2.3 points. So 3 more points there. It's like, and he had some decent scores, but the big thing with Junior, what we've been saying all season is, man, when you get 40 from Allen, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
He only got 20. And that's the difference.
Yeah. We mentioned flex over Heim time. Man, what can you say about Brian, right? Like
it just a little short. I mean, just kept trickling. Hurst would catch a couple, and it just was like Chubb just kept scoring at will, it seemed like.
Yeah. Matt, you had a decisive win over Ratty, Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
but you put up 100. You put up 109. That's a decent score.
Yeah, especially when you get a 0.
Yeah.
I mean,
so things never materialized for the Bengals, so that was tough. Najee Harris really kind of a dud. Devontae Adams, like the Raiders were a theme across the whole weekend. Just didn't do anything on Sunday, so that hurt a bunch of teams. But I will say, Josh is one of those teams, and especially when we're in these bye weeks, several teams are kind of in that category where it's like, man, 70, 80, 90 points is kind of about the range they've been in. And so Josh leaves himself open to losses if somebody has a big week.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you could say that I got a lot of help from McCaffrey because he finally had a breakout, but even if he would have only gotten his normal 15, I still would have won, because I won by more than 15,
Right.
So,
yeah. And then we've got Ed came to work this weekend, 133 to 96. All in all, Adam had a pretty decent score. Pickens with the 0 really hurt him, but I don't know that it would have mattered even if Goff goes off. I mean, just 32, 22, 36. Yeah, it's like the scores were just there for Ed.
He scored 96 with a pickup quarterback, missing Mahomes. It's not too shabby, but he just faced the wrong guy. He would have beat up and down. He would have beat several guys.
Yeah.
But Ed, man, you see the list of the top, position, the top scorers for positions, and Ed's like on 3 of them, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and so a much needed win for Ed. Put him 3-5, 3-5, right back in the hunt, and that 133 points obviously helps his overall score too. So that's big. Um, Danny, after picking up his first win of the season last week, then has another dud. Lowest score across everybody. The only team in the 70s this week, and and Brennan puts up a decent score of 108.7. So things working right for Brennan. And, he finds himself back in the hunt as well. Bunch of teams at 4-4, a bunch of teams at 3-5. So everybody fighting. And then we mentioned it, Rennie maybe got a little bit too cute, switches out his quarterback. We've got a 93.6 to 97.9. My lineup was really the haves and have-nots, right? You got decent scores out of a few guys. Tua has a great day. Algier come 14 points. Like if I get that every week, that would be a huge help for me. But having no second running back, having 0 points from the Raiders kicker, like a shutout there. Higbee didn't do anything, so I left myself vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But Rennie wasn't able to take advantage, and
don't take this the wrong way, but because he's getting a ton of points. But how long has it been since Tyreek Hill's actually scored a touchdown? Has it been a few weeks?
It's all
getting. How's he get 16 points? Like.
Yeah.
With just yardage. It's nuts.
Yeah. I said, Waddle was just going crazy.
Yeah. But then I thought, well, Waddle's having a day. That means Hill must not. And then I looked at the box score, and there he is. He's got 150 yards. It's like
I think he got him down to the 10 like 3 straight times, and then somebody else scored the touchdown.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, Dave, we talked about doing something a little different. So I went into the laboratory and did some homework. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and see if I can get this up. Can you see it now, Dave?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So we've got here's what I've done. We've got the top 5 scorers in each position for fantasy football. We're just going to talk about them. We've got when they were drafted, who drafted them, how many points they've scored, and what their average points scored in is. And we just thought it'd be fun to kind of talk through this a little bit. I'll say, like with the quarterbacks, and I sent this over to Adam. Adam is just got a brain for this kind of stuff, so he just jotted down some notes for me and some things that he took out of this, and so I'll share some of Adam's thoughts. I know I sent this to you, Dave, so you're going to have some thoughts on it. Nothing really surprising here in the quarterbacks. All of these quarterbacks were chosen in between about 26 picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 3 of them were picked in round 4, 1 in round 5, 1 in round 6. And so I don't know, anything surprising about the quarterbacks
well, I think
for you?
It does sort of I think people, the pundits, the fantasy gurus or whatever, they're like, oh, you wait on a quarterback. And this almost flies in the face of that, because it's like you kind of expect out of 5 that somebody that was picked in the 9th or 10th round would be, just would make their way up there, because with quarterbacks, it's like
right, somebody unexpected, right? Or
1 through 12, most years the difference isn't that great, and that's why people wait on them, because you can usually with the 12th picked quarterback, he can still score 25. And there's always guys on the waiver wire that score 25, and you start a guy with 12. It's like I kind of figured out of 5, somebody would be past the 6th round, but nope.
Yeah. Well, so like something just, as I was thinking about it, and every season something could change, right? Like, who knows what it would be like, in the future, next season or the season after. But if you wanted a top 5 quarterback, you better pick him in the 4th or 5th round, right? You know what I mean?
And
So
we're what 8 weeks in. It's not like
yeah,
it's the beginning of the season. Yeah.
right. Also, with quarterback, more so than some of the other positions, these top five guys are all, obviously Allen stands on top by himself, right? He's averaging 33.4 points per game. He's got 233.8 total points. But the drop off is not significant for all five guys. Would you agree?
Yeah. I don't,
You know,
right off the top of my head, I don't know if anybody's had a bye of these five or missed any time.
Mahomes has already had his bye.
So so that's right. He had it this week. So he's third, even missing a game.
Yeah. Yep. And so just for fun,
Well, didn't Allen? Because Junior started somebody else.
yeah, so Allen's had his bye as well, but just for just so you know, so Cousins is the 10th overall quarterback, and he's averaging 21 points per game. So if you want to be this season, at least, that's all we can talk about. If you want to be in that 26, 28, 30 points per season, that's that top five guys. You're going to see significant drop off if you're starting like myself. I'm starting Justin Herbert most games, right? He's averaging 21 points a game. Kirk Cousins 21 points a game. Some of these other guys that people have put in, Kyler Murray for Brian, who's got a great team, but he's relied on him for quarterback, 22 points a game. So that's where you miss out on some of that.
When you say 21, if 7-8 point difference right there, 3 of our matches this week were that was the difference.
Yeah.
So it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting to see if this continues and these 6th round and below. Whoa.
Yep. So is my sharing paused? It keeps on.
It's like going through a black hole. I think it's being stretched to infinity.
Yeah. Now what do you see?
Try again. I don't see it. It's gone. It's not up.
All right.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this continues for the whole season. If it does change the way we pick. If it makes the 6th, 7th, 8th quarterbacks take and go 7th, 5th, 6th round instead of waiting until the 9th, 10th round. Everybody, there'll be a round or two where just all 12 of us pick a quarterback because we don't want to miss out.
Where did it go? We're having technical difficulties. I apologize.
They could go back and screenshot it, And
Yeah,
I think you could only see.
But it was
top part.
It was. Here we go.
There we go. Back and better than ever.
Okay, there we go. All right. So with running backs, we've got Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and all these guys again. 3 of them picked in the first round. We've got everybody picked within pick 3 all the way through pick 26. So
definitely really, the one of these is not like the other. Is Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gem. If you can get that, if it does,
but as much as it looks like, I will say, even though it looks like the 3rd round, he was the 26th pick. I mean, he was early on in the 3rd round.
Okay.
So you know what I mean. So like, now it was interesting. I didn't go back and look, Dave. So we've got these 5 guys picked within the first 26 picks of the draft. I don't know how many running backs were picked in the first 26 picks of the draft, but some of those guys missed.
Yeah.
But we've got all these guys are averaging, and this is where we got a lot more parity, even though, Chubb's had a great season, 153 total points. These guys' averages are all really within earshot of each other. They're all really close.
Yeah.
But as Adam said, hitting these top two running backs, has just been a huge advantage, right? It's not easy to pick the right ones. We've got some guys that were picked within that first or second round, probably that I've got. No, I didn't pick any in the first 2 rounds, but some guys picked some in the first 2 rounds that
Well, and what it affords you is like Brian hasn't had to think at all about who he's going to play. Whereas some of us have had to decide on our second guy, and we flip-flopped it and we made the wrong call. Somebody on the bench scores 15 and our starter scores 5. He hasn't had to make that decision. He's just been able to plug them in anytime that they're actually playing.
Yeah.
And huge.
And there's guys that are on the rise, right? Rennie's running back from Las Vegas. He's kind of like really starting to peak. Kamara's starting to come along after missing some games. So, this could look very different at the end of the season, but these guys are all, really, really, doing pretty well. So, and it's interesting to see that, other than Brian, we got a lot of different teams on here for, or not Brian, but you. We've got a lot of different teams on here. Yeah. You got a great quarterback, but you're the only one with a quarterback and a running back.
Yeah.
And so then we look at anything else from the running backs that you noticed?
No, I mean, I think, just a testament to if you get it right. I mean, for these, 1, 2, 3 of them were first rounders. That means any of the other ones picked in the first round that aren't on this list wish they were.
Yeah.
It's
and Adam just pointed out, he just asked the question, and we don't know the answer. Somebody can go back and look if they want to. But he feels like that 19.1, 18.8 average that Henry and Chubb have, he feels like that feels pretty high. He wonders if in 2021, if guys were averaging that, what was the running back average at the end of the season for the top running backs? He's feeling like that, man, that's obviously if you're averaging 20 points a game for a running back and you can just plug that person in every week, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because it does seem like in the last 3 years with the changes in the passing rules and hands off the receivers and they can't hit the quarterback, running backs haven't been getting as many points and committee approaches and all that kind of stuff. But guys like Chubb and Henry that are kind of testing. I mean, Barkley's back, McCaffrey, guys and Eckler, they all stay on the field all 4 downs.
Yeah. So, and big takeaway is just if you look at Brian, he's got 2 running backs on there, and that's the reason that he leads us in points, right? He just and if we go down here, you're going to see he's got a wide receiver as well. So he's got 2 top running backs and 1 top wide receiver. He doesn't have a top quarterback, but
no, but I have a feeling in a few weeks Murray's gonna make a play just because he's got Hopkins back.
Yeah,
and his numbers are starting to get better.
He'll be trending up for sure.
Yeah.
So,
which is not good for the rest of us.
No. So at wide receivers, we've got Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, and Justin Jefferson. And again, bye weeks all kind of play issues in here, but these are based off total points. And then if you look over on the far side, you can see their averages. And here's where we have a little bit more kind of drop off in, while the total numbers doesn't seem to be like crazy, Jefferson with 96 and Stephon Diggs with 118. You look at those averages, Diggs is averaging almost 17 points a game, and Jefferson closer to 14, and Waddle only 13. So, Tyreek Hill only 13.8. So those averages kind of also are what's important. But I've got 2 top wide receivers. That's the only thing that's probably kept my team afloat. But
well, I think the interesting thing that sticks out here is that everybody's a number 1 except Waddle. To have 2 guys on the same team, Hill and Waddle and Tua, he's missed some time, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not like they've had stability at quarterback.
well, and think about this. Tua is not a top 5 quarterback.
No.
Only Stephon Diggs on this list has a top 5 QB.
Yeah. And like, well, some of it is, I mean, I don't know. He missed a game or two, right?
Yeah.
And
yep,
so
he
like,
missed a couple
man, that's
games.
tough. Like you throw some other quarterback in there and these two guys are still catching them, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And so Adam believes that the wide receiver spot, because there's so many guys out there, is the hardest to figure out. Just getting it right.
Yeah.
And you look at, we were talking about the running backs, all those guys were picked. But all these guys were picked in the first 4 rounds. Jalen Waddle is the outlier at the 47th pick. But if you look at all these other ones, we got pick number 10, pick number 17, pick number 4, and pick number 8 for Jefferson. Waddle really stands in, so again, not a ton of what I would call value picks in here, right? Like Waddle's the one that stands apart from that where you feel like, oh, I got a steal there.
At most of these, they're doing what you picked them for. As opposed to, I mean, a bunch of us pick guys right around these same spots and they're not on this list.
Right.
For whatever reason, injuries are just, we wanted those guys. We wanted to pick the right one. We just didn't.
Yep. So we'll get into some. So here's some things that Adam pointed out. If you just think about like these top 3 main positions that we have, a bunch of different teams represented here. Obviously, Heimtime, we pointed out, having 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver. I know that you've got a quarterback, and a running back, but off all weekend, no running backs and no wide receivers in the top 5, yet he's first in our league.
Yeah.
Right. Joe Burrow, no running back or wide receivers in the top 5. Rennie, no running back, wide receiver in the top 5. Or not Rennie. Who's he saying here? RK. Is that Brennan?
I don't know what you're.
He's got a bunch
of like the people.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of initials off of their Joe Burrow. That's one team, and then I don't have it in front of me. Everybody's the Lumberjacks, 1 wide receiver in the top 5, no running backs in the top 5. Rat Trappers, 1 running back, top 5, no wide receivers in the top 5.
RK is Rennie Kittle.
Yeah, but he does have. Rennie has Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe is there another RK?
Well, there's. I was looking at team names, but I think he meant Rennie, but Rennie does. So, but anyway, the idea is that like nobody just has everybody. You know what I mean? Brian's the closest, and obviously that's why that was what gives him a huge point advantage, because he's got so many different guys. But we talked about he's missing the quarterback component of that. If Brian had a quarterback that had done anything, you know what I mean, top 5, 7,
first few weeks.
Worthy.
He was low the first few weeks.
Yeah, he would be. I mean, he's already unstoppable, but
yeah,
I mean, nobody wants to play him. That's my point.
So I wonder if maybe Rennie would know this, but back when he was, undefeated through 8 weeks, I wonder if he had a top quarterback, top running back, top wide,
Yeah, we talked about that last season about who he had playing.
But I feel like the stats,
Yeah, I feel like that. But I feel like that he didn't have to change his lineup a ton. I think we were looking at it, and it was like basically he had thoroughbreds. You know what I mean? Like just guys that he could trust a little bit.
Get kicker and defense points to make up a bunch. And it's not all the top running back, wide receiver, quarterback.
Yeah. So here's where it gets here's where it gets real interesting. Tight end, defense, and kicker. We've got Travis Kelce was taken in the second round, 22nd pick. He's 14.3 points per game. But if you're going to pick a tight end in the second round, you expect that out of him, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Taysom Hill, undrafted, but this is where stats can be deceiving.
Well,
he's got 80.5 points. 30 plus of those came in one game, and everything else has been average, correct?
And almost none of those points are in our stats because he wasn't on a team at the beginning.
Right.
The big week he had, he was on my bench because I just picked him up, as a flyer for the next week. Basically.
He's not affected games. That's what you're
not
saying.
Really.
Like wins and
for
losses.
Me, he's only gotten 7-8, which in this day and age, sometimes that's all if I get that out of a tight end, it's hard to, 7 or 8 points. I haven't really balked at it, but he hasn't been like lighting things up for me. But with Waller hurt, I had to have somebody. But I mean, his points are deceiving because out of everybody on this list, most of those points have not gone towards starting points.
Yep. So here we go. We've got Mark Andrews again, picked in the second round, 18th pick. He was actually picked before Kelce by Danny, and he's significantly under Kelce's performance, and so he still stands head and shoulders above the rest of the tight ends on this list. But so here's the thing: if we take Taysom out of it, take Taysom Hill out of it, if you didn't get Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, none of these other guys matter. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
As far as like any given week, you could have picked these guys up anytime.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 9th round, 10th round, and that's why we see, now it'll be interesting. Don't you think that TJ Hawkinson, that'll be interesting to see? He's just been traded. He's on a new team. What that will look like?
Yeah, I mean, and we can get into that. I have a little bit to, we can go over that in a little bit. But it'd be interesting to see if that.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up. Defense. Here's the thing about defense. Defense and kickers both. Okay, look at that. Four kickers undrafted. All right. Defenses. The Bills were picked by Ed in the 7th round. So with the 76th pick. Now just go up here and look. There's no quarterback, running back, or wide receiver that you could have gotten with that 76th pick, and you couldn't have gotten Kelce or Andrews with that pick. But there are a lot of players that you could get outside of the Bills defense probably in the first 7 rounds that maybe would have been a better value for you because you could have turned around in the 13th round or the 15th round and got the Cowboys or the Eagles, and they would have been even better than the team you selected. So that's where like the defense and the kickers is just really a crapshoot.
And I bet if you look at any of these, there's probably a week with 15 to 20 and a week with 4.
Yeah. So that's where we're playing matchups. And I really wasn't thinking about this until then. I would say draft a kicker 15th. Okay, just because you need to fill out your lineup. ESPN likes it when you do that because then they'll judge you based on having a full team and not having no kicker. So draft a kicker last because you have no idea who's going to be good and who's not. And you can pick somebody up that it's better if you got a bad guy on your team. But with defenses, maybe think about 13th, 14th round, picking a couple different defenses because you really don't know who's going to be good, and you can kind of play situationally to see if one of those teams, there is a truth that like if you go out there now to try to pick up a defense to start, there may not be one that you love the matchup that's going to be playing. So it does help to have a couple options on defense, but at the end of the day, the difference between the best defense and the worst defense.
I don't ever do that. I don't ever pick 2 defenses at draft.
Yeah.
It's not right or wrong. And normally I don't, that was probably the earliest I've ever picked a defense, round 12.
Yeah.
Normally I wait till the the last, second to last round, and I don't even know. I think I was just out of thoughts by then or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was high on chicken or something, um, but I normally because I don't know who's going to be good, and I don't trust that I'm going to figure it out, and so I end up just looking at the week 1 and week 2 and seeing who I think are going to be bad teams and pick a defense based on that, knowing that I'm going to drop them.
Yeah.
But I've kept 49ers the whole time, and they've been good sometimes and bad sometimes.
Yeah. So that was just a little bit of a kind of a look at the draft, look at how guys are doing, just kind of a talk of like, the takeaway is that, I mean, really, at least this season, if you want a top 5 guy, you probably should draft them about when you think a top 5 person would be taken, because there's, at least especially in like those major skill positions, you're not going to probably get a top 5 guy in the 8th round. Not for running back or wide receiver. That's pretty rare.
Well, and if you really think that there's a chance they will, then probably at least 7 other managers probably are thinking that same thing, and they're going to get them
Yeah.
a couple rounds before you.
Yeah. If you want a guy, you feel like a guy is going to has top 5 potential, go get him. And even with that, you can go through and look like, there, those top 1 or 2 positions in each category, like those guys have really made a name for themselves. They kind of stand out, but there's plenty of other guys that they're not. You know what I mean? Like they're not there's not that much difference between the number 5 guy and maybe the number 10 guy. So yeah, so everybody showed up on the list once, at least once.
That's good.
You and Brian have 4 different guys on there. We've got a few guys with 3 and 2, and like I said, everybody made it on there at least once. So everybody has somebody that's top 5 statistically in at least one category. So there you go.
Well, thanks for doing that. That was cool. That's
Yeah.
good.
So
You
I know
want to talk trades?
Yeah, talk about trades a
All
little
right. So we had a trade deadline. It kind
Not
of
our trade deadline. We talked about the NFL
yeah,
trade
not
deadline.
ours, not fantasy, but the NFL one, because sometimes it impacts. This one, I don't know if we're gonna go through them all just to kind of just chat real briefly about it. I was gonna start with the ones that happened prior to the deadline, and the farthest back I went was Robbie Anderson got traded from Carolina to Arizona, which is basically amounted to nothing.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything. He's not on anybody's radar. I don't see much happening with it. Arizona has a ton of wide receivers. That one doesn't seem to matter. McCaffrey going to the 49ers, which, I wasn't, he's going to be good no matter where he's at. And I think obviously he had a good, this last week. I don't anticipate that always happening, but I feel like whatever team he's on, he's going to be good. 49ers, maybe they're a little bit better team, but if you look at who that helped, the Carolina guys that left behind, Foreman and Hubbard Foreman had a great week. He had like 30 points this past week. So
Yeah.
they didn't miss a beat, so it big time helped them. So whoever picked up Foreman.
And your point is that had he been at Carolina last week, he probably would have had 30 points there as well.
Well, or I don't
close.
know. But I don't, it wasn't like they tanked, the Carolina, whoever was running for Carolina still did good.
And it opened up other opportunities for those other backs.
Yeah. So I think that was a win-win for both, Carolina and now who it didn't help was Jeff Wilson, because he was not going to get the ball, but then he got traded to Miami. We'll talk about him in a second. So the next one was my other running back, James Robinson, went to the Jets. Jury's still out on that, whether it's going to impact anything. It doesn't seem like it's going to matter. Like he didn't get much playing time this past week. So I'm not holding my breath on that one. The next one was Kadarius Toney, got traded to the Chiefs, which I got a big question mark by that one, because the Chiefs have like they got so many wide receivers. Like I don't know how he fits in. There's not enough balls for him to like make some great impact. But who that does help, I think, is the Giants guys, Slayton and that something Robinson, so now they don't have as much. I don't know how much it's going to help them because they're the Giants and they're not passing a ton anyway, but we'll see. But I don't know that Tony going to the Chiefs, I don't see that really doing much. The next one I got is, you mentioned Hockenson going to the Vikings. I don't know. I mean, you go from Goff to Cousins, and you got Jefferson, and you got Cook. I mean, I feel like he'll probably be about the same. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I don't see a big change. He was getting the ball a lot at Detroit.
I didn't do the right research. Tell me the name. Do you know the name of the guy he's replacing for the Vikings that got hurt?
Yeah, Irv Smith Jr. So who it does hurt is if anybody had Johnny Munt on their radar, who was the Vikings' second guy, thinking he was going to get some playing time. I don't think anybody picked him up. But if you thought you were going to be real savvy and pick him up, that's who it hurts because he's now irrelevant.
Yeah. So now, I mean, he's also going to, he's on a team. Smith Jr. has not had he's been fine. He's been serviceable, but I don't know. I still think that Thielen and Jefferson are probably better targets.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to change. I mean, he might have a breakout week where they're doubling everybody else and he gets a couple touchdowns. And his floor is probably 5 or 6, 4 or 5 passes, and so he'll probably be fine. But
yeah, so the guy he's replacing was the 22nd ranked tight end, and obviously he's got more upside. I don't know. I think that he had a couple huge weeks. I don't foresee him doing that again, but I think he'll be 6 to 8, 9 points. He has that potential per game.
What I didn't look at, I can maybe look at it real quick, is who they got left
as a tight end.
Brock Wright projected for 3 points. So apparently ESPN doesn't think that Hawkinson's replacement is going to be equal. So the next one I got is Chase Claypool going to the Bears. I don't know about this one either. It's like he went from Pittsburgh quarterback to Fields, and Fields is, he's had some good games, but he hasn't been just slinging the ball around. He's been running a lot. I feel like, who knows? I mean, Claypool might do just as well. I mean, he had a couple people that he was competing with at Pittsburgh. I think it might help Mooney because he won't be doubled as much, and he was the only real target. I think it helps Johnson and Pickens at Pittsburgh. That probably helps them to have one less person that takes balls away from them. But I just don't think the Bears. I mean, Fields he's not dropping back and throwing a ton, so he could. I think the jury's kind of out on that one. I think it helps Fields probably more so than it helps Claypool, because I don't know that he'll get the volume.
But they're still a run first team, right? Even at the quarterback position.
Yeah. I mean, you got Montgomery and you got Herbert are running, and Fields are running. So I don't know if that's gonna matter. Then we got your guy Chase Edmonds going to Denver, and I don't know that anybody wins here because he's gonna be competing with Gordon and Murray.
Yeah.
And I think
I honestly don't understand the trade. I feel like that Edmonds has got himself in a position where he wasn't wanted in Miami, but if I'm Chicago, did I actually want him, or did I just want the picks? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could have been one of those deals where he got cut after the trade. I wouldn't have been surprised, other than he's got such a big contract and who would want to pay for that. But with those running backs there, I think
it hurts all three of them.
Yeah.
And then Miami, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it helps Mostert, because I think he was already getting what he was getting, because Edmonds wasn't cutting into anything anyway.
Yeah.
He'd already taken over. So I don't think anybody wins there. I don't think anybody comes out too far ahead.
No, but I was teasing. I do not foresee him going to Denver and having a resurgence the second half of the season. I don't see him being a viable option unless you're talking about my team where I have no running backs whatsoever.
So I think that is mind-boggling. Then I mentioned before Jeff Wilson to Miami, and I think actually that does hurt Mostert a little bit because he probably is he's new, and so they're going to try to use him because they got him, and whereas Edmonds, they were done with him, so they weren't playing him. So I think they'll try to shoehorn in Wilson into some playing time, which might hurt Mostert a little bit.
Yeah,
I think it actually helps. I mean, Wilson, because he's never going to he'll get more carries competing with Mostert than he will with McCaffrey. He wouldn't have seen the field with McCaffrey. So I think that probably helps Wilson, but I don't know if enough to have him be one of those guys. Mostert or Wilson would have to get hurt for the other one to really benefit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That one I don't think really is going to be a big deal too much anyway.
Yep.
Then we got the Hines and Moss. So Nyheim Hines goes to Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think that helps him. I mean, if you look at, he had a great year, like past couple years with Indy when Indy had a good offense.
Yep.
They've been, I don't know why they couldn't use him anymore, but I think with Buffalo, there's a chance with as much offense as they have. I think it helps him.
Well, and they were, Pat McAfee was saying that could he be a, Hardman / Tyreek Hill type player for Buffalo, like just get him the ball in space and let him explode. And, his receiving ability, I think, really benefits him in that offense. But I think the biggest thing is how many plays can he get on the field for? That'll be the thing. Yeah. But, in situations, will he bust a long one off, whether it's a run or a screen pass? I think so. It's going to be, snap count for him.
Yeah. But I think, he's in a better position than he was just because of the way Indy was going. I think it helps Taylor just because he needs all the help he can get because for whatever reason he's been struggling, and so it'll be one less ball that won't be in his hands. It probably helps the Deion Johnson he jumps into Hines' spot in Indy. Hurts my guy Singletary for Buffalo because he'll cut into third downs a lot. As far as Moss going to Indy, I don't see that. I don't think he's as good as Hines, so I don't know that he takes any significant, looks away from Taylor. So I don't see that.
And Indy's just bad.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all in all, pretty dud on the whole, fantasy. Like, it's more what didn't happen.
Yeah.
And Eagles didn't do anything. Packers strangely didn't do anything. Like there's some teams out there that really could have benefited. And then individual players like, Houston Cooks, I think, was hoping to go someplace. I bet Kareem Hunt was probably hoping to go start someplace.
Well, even during that game, they were talking about it. So I was interested to see if somebody would make a play for Hunt, and obviously that would have helped fantasy owners if if he could have got into a different situation. Although most teams, their backfields are somewhat secure, but I'm sure he could have helped somebody.
Yeah, and there's. Oh yeah, I think he would be better than he's better than probably half the league's running backs.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few guys I heard, like I think Jerry Jeudy, like a few wide receivers that were mentioned as possibly getting moved, but nothing happened. It didn't happen. So that was kind of uneventful. So so real quick, I did want to mention that Kevin had another idea for a segment, and so he posed this idea of having me go through each of our fantasy teams and pick out a guy that I think would be somebody that team would trade, and then who they, what kind of position they might trade for. So I started looking into it, and the first several, it just seemed like pretty obvious to where it wasn't very interesting. And then the more I got into it, I'm like, it just seemed like it was a little too in depth. Like,
well, yeah, and so it's an exercise in trying to figure out like what each team's weaknesses are, right? I think
I just thought it was too much to reveal,
Yeah, and we didn't want to feel like that we had any collusion going on. And I think that the original idea would have been like, you could have looked at my team and you could have said, "Oh, Kevin, you need to trade Tyreek Hill, and you need to target for him a top tier running back, right? Like that, it wasn't going to be super specific, like, oh, you need to trade Tyreek Hill for, a specific running back, or although, because maybe that would have been too much. But even in that, like, you kind of know there's only a handful of guys out there
and I think what it did is kind of solidify my thought of we don't get a lot of trades anymore. At least I haven't put any, like, we don't see them. Like, we don't see the proposals that get turned down.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what all's going on out there.
And I have to guess that, like, I mean, over the last couple of years, like, I believe Adam and Brennan made a trade. If it wasn't last season, it was season before. And then it was like, we were kind of like looking at it and maybe, who was going to end up on the better side of it. So Adam's always got his hand in there trying to improve his team. I think that he would probably be more willing to trade with people. I think that for the most part, most teams would be like, Adam knows something I don't know, and I'm going to get taken advantage of. I'm not saying that Adam's looking to do that. I'm just saying that most people, like, that's what keeps people from trading, don't you think?
So I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe a little that. I think it's just, I feel like for a trade to make sense, the right situation has to occur, and it doesn't, and a lot of times it just doesn't exist. I feel like the best case scenario is, say, you have 4 pretty good wide receivers, because I feel like if somebody's not starting worthy, then why trade them?
Yeah.
So I only really think about trades if it's people that you're actually going to start. And so say you had 4 wide receivers that you would be willing to start, but you are a little lack at running back. Well, then you would need to find somebody that's the exact opposite, that has 3 startable running backs, and you could come. And right now, I don't know that, at any point in our season, you look up and down our lineups, and most people don't, we don't have 2 teams that meet that criteria very often, where, hey, I'm sitting here with 4 really good wide receivers, and somebody else is sitting there with 3 really good running backs, and it makes sense to trade, because it's still a risk, because all it takes is one of those guys to get hurt and you're not strong anymore at that position. So there's always some risk that comes to that. So I feel like that's the perfect storm, or like the perfect situation for a trade. The other times is when, some people will maybe do it around a bye week, which is very short-sighted. But if you really don't want to, give up a week, you might make a trade just for a 1 week, just to, especially if you need a win, really bad. So that would be, kind of a,
well, and you also, like, I mean, we've mentioned this before, but Brian's got 2 of the top 5 running backs, right? And then earlier in the season, he's kind of fallen off a little bit, but he also has Clyde's Edwards-Helaire. Could have tried to trade Helaire for, a wide receiver or an upgraded quarterback or something like that, or one of his other running backs, and put Helaire into his starting lineup. But then you find, like, this week, Barkley and Chubb are both on bye. So you find yourself in a position where, well, I really need him. You know what I mean? Like, so I weakened my team somehow.
So I think, buys definitely play. Like, you don't even think about trading until the guy's done with his buys, like till all your starters are done. And sometimes that's not until week 10, So I think that plays into trading, because you don't.
I mean, we've got guys on bye this season all the way up to week 13, isn't that right?
Oh, I haven't even looked. I mean, that does make it more challenging, because you don't.
Yeah, the way they've restructured the buys, they start later and they go later, and so we've got some really late buys. And I know for me, like personally, I've got good wide receivers. I have terrible trash running backs, but it's that balance of, like, would I benefit from having a 10-point a week running back? I would, but I would have to sacrifice something to get that. And so am I just better off getting 12 to 20 points a week from all the wide receivers I'm going to start, and just
take the risk that you're going to be able to pick up or pick from your bench somebody that would get you enough points to make up, the difference. And that's tough to do. I mean, the other aspect of trading sometimes is you if I have a really good player on my bench, he's not on somebody else's team starting,
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I want to help somebody else out, I'd rather him be on my bench than going against me another week. So that plays into, to it a little bit. I think we're done with like nobody's really going after, whoever's in last place and trying to, make them some, crappy offer and because they're desperate, because
I mean, Danny wouldn't check his email even if you sent it to him.
And so, you don't, and if you're in first place, it's like, way up there, then you're like, well, why would I, kind of like what I was just saying, why would I get rid of some of my good players? And, how can I do even better than I'm doing,
Right.
So you don't want to help the teams below you. So I think that it makes trades hard because for what you said, you don't want to lose the trade for one, and to do what I think is, the best case situations where you find the perfect, you have an excess, somebody else has the excess of exactly what you need, and you flip flop, and both people have a potential of coming out ahead. You just don't get those situations very often. We're all too weak at some position.
Yeah. But if you're watching the podcast this week, go make a trade. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, I haven't proposed any, and nobody sent one to me probably in a couple years that I remember,
All right. Well, I'll send you one, Dave, today, tomorrow. Okay. Look for it. So, all right. So let's wrap this thing up. We'll go through the lineups really quick, the matchups really quick. We've got Heim Time versus Show Me Your TDs. It's a huge matchup, but Lee gets the advantage of catching Brian with both of his running backs out. And so it'd be really interesting to see what's happened. But neither one of their lineups are completely filled out. And so still got a ways to go there. But man, that's a gift for Lee to face Brian without 2 top 5 running backs. Wouldn't you agree?
So I don't know because I don't even know if Patterson's going to play.
Yeah, right now he's projected not to, so Brian could be looking to pick up a running back or do something different. He filled out his lineup pretty early this week.
This is where it gets tough because, there's
doesn't have anybody he wants to get rid of.
No, I mean, not really,
Yeah. So, and maybe he's just going to pray that he can get it done with Edwards, Hilaire, and Waddle. So, which is possible.
Yeah.
We've got Joe Burr takes his chance at off all weekend, and the projections do not look good for Joe simply because Junior gets back. He has Josh Allen back, but he's got 2 really good running backs, and man, he seems like he just keeps getting better. So it'll be we'll see how Hawkinson does in Minnesota, though. We'll find out right away.
He has to learn the playbook.
Yep.
But I feel like tight. Well, I don't know. It's a tough position because you got to block. It's kind of important. So I don't. But
yeah. Look for a big bounce back game for Devontae Adams. Raiders can't do as bad as they did last week, right?
You would think. Yeah. I think he's got to.
Yeah. Our 2 high point teams from this past week face each other. So we got Flex versus the Lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Both teams need to fill out their lineups, but that will be interesting. Flex is without his quarterback. Dak is on bye, so he's got to pick up somebody to start this week. So big playoff implications there. If Ed could somehow get the win, man, that would really muck things up even more, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so too. But then, Travis he would really solidify. Like he would help himself out big time.
Yeah, for sure. You are playing Danny, and so I think everyone outside of you is rooting for Danny just because Danny's not catching most teams in the playoffs. We're not worried about him. And for a 4-4 team to lose, that helps almost everybody.
Yeah, it helps all the 9s and the 10s of the world.
Yeah. So
which I'm missing McCaffrey, and I don't really have a good, replacement, so we'll see. I think there'll be a lot of people trying to scour for running backs this week.
Yeah. So, and then we've got Discount Double Check gets to take out his frustration on Adam. We got a 5-3 Rennie versus a 4-4 Adam, and Adam's got to
3 losses in a row. That's tough.
Yeah, and he's got some empty spots. He's got to pick some people up. He's got a lot of buys on his team this week. But I'll say this: he's got Mahomes, he's got Kamara, he's got Mostert, and I believe that man, things got to break Adam's way.
New Orleans has been scoring, and I feel like Baltimore, that could be a high-scoring game, the Baltimore-New Orleans game Monday night.
Yeah.
That's going to be for a Monday night, there's probably going to be there's a lot of Baltimore and New Orleans people in play.
Yeah. And Jacobs had a terrible game, so look for him to bounce back. Rennie's got Rodgers back in his starting lineup. So this one is an important one for both of these teams as well. 5-3 and 4-4. And then I play Brennan, 5-3 versus 3-5. I have basically my whole team intact except for I need to find a defense, so that's good for me. I still have to make a decision whether I'm rolling with Tua off his big game, but they play Chicago. That's a pretty good defense. Herbert, who's been lackadaisical, but Atlanta just playing against Herbert's so up and down. That's the biggest thing. My biggest complaint with him.
If he doesn't get screen passes to Eckler right now, he doesn't have anybody to throw to.
Yeah.
Williams is hurt. Allen had a setback, I think. So he's got a bunch of the guys I don't even know who their names are.
He could throw it to Higbee. I don't know. It's just a thought. It's just I don't know. Just maybe.
That would be. Why don't you give him a call?
I will.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Throw the ball to Higbee.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that.
Hey, wait a minute. That's the wrong team. He can't throw it to Higbee. He's a Ram.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, who am I talking about? Yeah. LA Chargers. Oh no, what I had the
Who's the Chargers?
I had him. I dropped him. He was terrible. He doesn't throw to him either. He never throws to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't. I mean.
Yeah. But if Matt Stafford is listening.
Yeah.
He could throw to Higbee. That would be awesome too. Yes. But I have almost my entire team in place. I have to pick up a defense. So I like the.
Brennan just scored like 10 more points than you. So.
He did. No. He did. But I do like the being able to start Jefferson, Hill, and Schuster. Like I feel pretty good about that. I think I was teasing, but I do think that Algier is going to be huge for just consistency for me at running back.
You a little worried that Patterson comes back?
He's not right now. He's got 0 points next to his name, so that doesn't bother me.
But maybe not just this week, but like.
Oh, you're saying down the road?
Yeah. You'll worry about that later.
I'll worry about that later. I mean, Connor has to come back at some point in time, doesn't he? For Arizona.
Does he? That Benjamin guy's pretty good.
Sitting on Rennie's bench.
You got Dylan, who's a tease.
Yeah.
He's tough to start though.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not worried about running back. I'm just going to get all my points to my quarterback and wide receivers, so it's fine.
Good thing.
Yeah. So, good luck to everybody. I guess there was some controversy about the power rankings, but Rennie, I don't know if Rennie knows this or not. If he can make it all the way through this part of the podcast, I feel like he's the one guy that I can count on to listen the entire way through.
Because we put Adam above me.
No, I think it's because Junior didn't get knocked down. So I'll say this real quick. I know we've been going long. We moved Junior out of the first place preemptively a couple weeks ago when Rennie dethroned him, just to have him pop right back up there. That was probably our fault. Junior's in first place. I don't know if Rennie knows how the tiebreakers work, but it's off of total points, not just in how we do the power rankings, but I'm saying in our league. If the season ended right now, who would be the league champion, Dave?
Yeah, it'd be Junior.
It'd be Junior. So he's in first. He's got almost 90 points more than Lee, who's in second place. So yeah, until Junior loses back-to-back weeks, or somebody takes first place from him, I'm going to leave him in first place. Or
if he could win with a 50 and beat somebody, 50 to 49, and we might knock him down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, if Lee scores 70 in a row, wins 7 in a row, and Junior lays a dud, but beats somebody and doesn't score over 70 points, sure, maybe then it would happen. But for right now, as much as I hate to admit it, Junior's
I think
deserves to be in first place.
But we don't have to justify ourselves to anybody, for one. But if we were going to try to, everybody thought that Junior was going to win that game. Like, all it took was, was Mixon getting 9 points.
Yeah, like, power rankings aren't based solely on results. So it wasn't
like he got beat off all weekend. He just lost at the end.
And we love the fact that Lee beat him, because that helps everybody else.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, we're all glad it happened. But we'll see what happens. So there it is. That's the end of it. Like, subscribe, comment. Thanks for watching. Sorry this one's longer than most, but we had a lot of stuff we wanted to cover.
I won a raffle at Planet Fitness, and so they gave me a big bag full of Planet Fitness swag. That's why I'm wearing the Planet Fitness. If there was a raffle for a certain CrossFit place and I entered it and I won, I would wear that.
Okay.
But I entered the Planet Fitness one and I won, and so that's why I got this hat.
I think we should probably say something to Rennie. Like, I would drink out of a Total Tan Stein or a Queen City CrossFit.
I would wear a shirt, either one of them.
I like, send stuff our way and we will promote your products and your companies on our podcast. We're not above that. So
no, I'm not above it.
No. So all right. Well, let me sign us off. Thanks. Have a great night, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.